My name is Nataly Kogan, and I worked with Joelle on my book titled Happier Now: How to Stop Chasing Perfection and Embrace Everyday Moments, including the difficult ones. You know, I cannot describe working with Joelle in any other word but magic. And I don't mean magic like, oh, it's just poof and easy, but magic in terms of how much I grew and learned as a person, as a thinker, as a speaker, and a writer, and how much my writing and my book improved in our work together. You know, when we started out, I knew a bit about what it would take to write a book. I'd written a book many years ago, but this was this was a huge book. It's part memoir, part self-help, and I had no idea the amount of not just kind of straight up editing, but just development of my ideas, of understanding my own story that I've already lived for 42 years, that I learned so much more about, that I had no idea about the depth of the process that we would go through. And it was incredible. It was difficult, and it was difficult because Joelle is such an attentive and such an insightful writing partner and editor. In the drafts that I would send to her, there were places where I knew I was gliding over things, either because there were difficult things to deal with or because it was an idea that was half-baked. And when Joelle's edits would come back, those were the pieces that she would ask me questions about. So this insight that she has, both the intellectual insight and just the emotional insight to help me as an author really dig into those places. So instead of gliding over them, we actually work to develop them. So I think that's one huge strength, a huge area of help that Joelle really provided for me, was helping me understand just the structure of the book. We used to talk a lot about this idea that there's a structure that everything has to hang off of. And if we structure the book the right way, the reader is not necessarily going to be aware of it, but it really helps them go on this journey. And when I sent my first draft to Joelle, it had no structure. It was one of these, and this idea, and here's an idea, and this idea. And they're great ideas, but it didn't really have that narrative, that idea structure. And Joelle was absolutely brilliant in working with me and helping develop that. Joelle really taught me was the thought about the sequencing of presenting the ideas. So this idea that it's almost like an onion that's being peeled, and that you may suggest an idea in chapter 1, and then when you're back to it in chapter 3, you're developing it further, you're peeling a little more of an onion, and that there's that curiosity for the reader, there's that development for the reader. And I see myself trying to do that now in blog posts, in essays that I'm writing, in so much other writing. So I think that was another huge skill that Joelle brought and really taught me as a writer and as a thinker, as a speaker, to do that with my ideas. Having a writing partner like that, an editor like that, isn't a luxury. It's not an extra. It is an essential ingredient in creating a meaningful piece of writing. Not because I can't write or am not good at writing. I love to write and I'm pretty good at it, but having that degree of intellectual and emotional insight, and someone who really understands how to craft a narrative, how to craft a development of ideas, it made the book that we created together not only better, but together we were able to create something that I couldn't even conceive of. And it's exciting to see it come together that way, but it's also impacted so much of my other parts of my career. I've restructured my speeches that I give based on the work that Joelle and I did to create that development, to introduce that structure. As I mentioned, other writing. And so that's my biggest takeaway, is that having an editor with that kind of intellectual and emotional and just writing craft skill isn't something that I would ever consider an extra, but something that I think of as an essential element in creating any kind of meaningful piece of writing. So I am so grateful to Joelle. One of the things I say to folks, and I say this in the gratitude part of my book, is that working with Joelle and what Joelle helped me do, she helped bring out the best me to write the best possible book that I could. And I don't think I could have asked for a better writing partner, writing coach, and editor than that. So I'm so grateful and so excited to share our work together with the world.